How's it going, you guys? AZPlow21 here, starting something brand new, starting something interesting, something that I uh, kind of developed in my mind over the course of a day. Before I get started, a big shout out to YouTube channel Uncle Sam's Reject. He does a lot of cool stuff in regards to sports gaming as well, so be sure to check him out if you have some off time. But I'm going to be starting something in which I'm calling it Athletic Director Mode. And essentially, it's going to be on the title. It's going to be a sports RPG experience, is what I'm going to call it. Some people might call it like a board game. Some people just call it video games, I suppose. But it's something that I developed in my mind that for whatever reason I liked the idea of. So I'm just gonna roll with it. And I have a little bit of a scenario to kind of bring us into this athletic director mode. So without further ado, I'm AZPlow21 and welcome to Athletic Director Mode. So, humble beginnings. You start out as a lowly high school athletic director. You know, you graduate college. You really wanted to be a pro athlete, but it just was not in the cards for you. So what better way than to help the youth, help out a high school with their athletic programs and get everything cooking. You start to get, you start to actually like the job. You start to develop relationships. You start to really appreciate what it does for you, how rewarding it is, seeing these young men and women, grow as athletes and young men and women and whatnot. And so you come to like the job and you get very good at it. It comes with great success. You have championships abound in your program, and you're just really reaping in the benefits, not just of having success off the field, but also on the field, having these young men and women do good in the classroom and on the court, on the field. And so with that comes opportunity. I mentioned the relationships. You go golfing one day with a mutual friend of yours, and he mentions, you know what, you have really been doing well for yourself over at high school. I feel like you should make the next jump up. And I just came across a buddy of mine who mentioned that there is an opening that you would be perfect for. And the crazy thing is, they had you on their radar already. So you take a phone number, you call the phone number, and funnily enough, they said they were thinking about calling you either way. And so you take a trip, get on a plane, and you go to Gainesville, Florida to interview with the University of Florida for their vacant athletic director position. Things have not been cooking for them recently. Their programs have not been bringing in the success that they wanted, and they see you as a fresh face, someone with a lot of charisma, someone with a lot of ambition, and someone who is willing to get the job done. And so you go all in on this. You unfortunately upset the high school administrators by taking this interview opportunity. And you kind of think to yourself, there might not be any going back from this. If I don't get this job, I might not be able to go back to that high school and work again. But you do it. You go to the University of Florida. You interview for the position. You feel like you did a good job, and it just did not work. No dice. So that's actually me with my buddy. We took a trip over to the University of Florida. But yeah, you kind of come out of your interview kind of feeling like this. Just did not happen. Gators were not very kind to you. However, your friend that you went on that golf trip with tells you, hey, I'm sorry it didn't work out. I still have another buddy of mine who is in need of an athletic director. It's not as snazzy, it's not as high flashy as the University of Florida, but I believe you'd be perfect for the job. And it's not a very far drive from where you're at in Arizona. You nail the interview. The president of the university stands up, shakes your hand, and says, AZPlow21, we would be thrilled to have you as the next athletic director of New Mexico State University. That is correct. So for this athletic director mode, we are going to be working within the means of New Mexico State University. Go Aggies. And so now I'm going to kind of explain a little bit more as to what this athletic director mode is. Now, I mentioned Uncle Sam's Reject Gaming. He does this kind of something similar in regards to the athletic director mode. There is a very big difference, though, between the way that he's doing it and the way that I'm doing it. And the big big difference is that we are not playing any games. So there is no gameplay in this. And the reason for that is if you're the athletic director, you have no inclination, you have no impact on what actually happens on the field. So essentially, we are going to be playing out seasons for every athletic program at New Mexico State. We're going to oversee and we're going to essentially simulate what happens over the course of these athletic programs in their respective seasons. Only 3 of those programs will be through video games, as there are not a lot of, college sports video games. I mean, there really weren't that many irregardless back in the day. But those 3 games are football, NCAA football 14, not 13. Basketball, we are going to be playing college hoops 2K8. And baseball, we are going to be playing MVP NCAA baseball 07. As I mentioned, this is going to be strictly simulation and recruiting. So we'll be obviously doing in NCAA football 14, we'll be, leveling up our coach. We'll be leveling up our offensive and defensive coordinators. We'll be doing the recruiting. And anything in regards to, player personnel will be taken care of. But as far as on the field action, we will not be doing any gameplay. Same can be said with basketball. All the recruiting, all the hiring of the coaches, everything in regards to that we'll be doing. Same for baseball. Now, again, no games will be played. We are not the coach. We are the athletic director. This is where it gets interesting. Because like I said, there's only those 3 video games as far as college athletics. The rest of the programs will still have their seasons essentially quote unquote simulated. All their regionals, their championships, their postseason, their recruiting. It will be simulated and it will be played out via a series of dice rolls. And that's going to be all explained a little bit later because it does get a little convoluted. And leave me a comment down below as to how stupid and how excruciatingly detailed all of this is going to be. But I'm very excited about it and I'm going to do it. So why not bring you guys along with me? The entire athletic program will earn points based on the season performances on the from the teams and the individuals. So if we win a conference championship, we earn points. If an individual wins the Heisman, we earn points. And we'll get a little bit more into that. So these are the athletic programs at New Mexico State. There are not that many. I was very interested to find out. And we are going to run through the seasons as they happen throughout the year. So we're going to start out with the fall. Football, NCAA football 14. Again, we'll run through that season, and we will also run through those dice rolls for men and women's cross country, women's soccer, and women's volleyball. In the winter, and it's kind of interesting how this worked out because there's a sport for each season. In the winter, it's going to be men's basketball. In college hoops 2K8, women's basketball will have their season simulated via the dice rolls. Indoor track and field for women only will have theirs simulated via dice rolls, and then women's swim and dive also via dice rolls. And then in the spring, baseball, NCAA MVP baseball, that will be played video game style. And then men and women's golf dice rolls, outdoor track and field for the women. Yeah, they only have a women's track and field team, interestingly enough. Dice rolls, softball dice rolls, and then men's tennis will also be the dice rolls. So 3 programs through video games, 10 through the dice rolls. The video game season will be played through long play style. So it's not going to be very cut and dry videos. These are going to be rather long videos. Essentially, I'm just going to stream it, and hopefully you guys will come and join me, and then I will just have the video posted up on here. After each video game season, dice rolls for the other programs will commence. Now, there is a chance that I change that, where I do the dice rolls before kind of the video game stream begins, just because that video game stream will take quite a while. So more than likely I'll actually change that and do the dice rolls for the respective seasons before I get into the video game gameplay. After the dice rolls have concluded, or after the video game season has concluded, points will be tallied for the season for each team and for their individual performance. And I will in coming episodes keep a big spreadsheet of all the sports and all the points that they've tallied, and there's a reason for those points, and that I will actually be getting to. So as far as the point distribution within the seasons, the main reason for it is down at the bottom below. So once we get to 50 points, we are quote unquote given 20 scholarships for a new program. That means we can open our very own athletic program at New Mexico State, which will then have its seasons, um, simulated the same way that we would for the other dice roll programs. We'll just, roll the dice for those seasons, and that'll be that. But we also have to keep an account with Title IX. So for every men's scholarship that we offer, as far as a program, we need to make sure that we are offering an equal amount of women's scholarships. So I can't just do men's soccer, men's lacrosse, men's ice hockey. We have to keep it equal. So we can do like a men's hockey team and a women's hockey team, or we can do like a men's soccer team and then a women's water polo team or something like that. But we're only given 20 scholarships, so we have to keep that in mind. So we're definitely not going to be able to have, an extra football program, because that's, I believe 70 scholarships or something like that. So we just have to be mindful about it when we decide what programs we want to include at New Mexico State. And then at 100 points, this is a big one, we may use an extra die. So like I said, all of our dice rolls are going to be done with one die, and the amount of sides on each die is going to differ based on the sport, essentially. But if we get to 100 points, we can essentially purchase an extra die to give programs a better chance at succeeding in their seasons. I guess you could consider that like booster money, injecting more money into the programs in the hope that they get better. And so if once we get to 100 points, we can purchase that extra die to give our programs a better chance at succeeding. But how we earn the points: if we have a losing season, don't make a regional, don't make a bowl game, 0 points. If we have a winning season but do not get a conference title, no regional or anything like that, 1 point. Losing season, conference title or regional / bowl berth, 2 points. You can kind of see going from there. But essentially, if we do get to like the NCAA tournament or get, a victory in a bowl game, for example, that's 5 points. If we get to like the top 5 in like championships and cross country, if we make a Final Four, make it to the College World Series, if we make it to a BCS Bowl, that's 10 points. And any national championship in any program is 20 points. So that's kind of how the points are distributed and why we would want to use it. If you guys have any ideas for point distribution or, kind of rewards that we can give ourselves as far as these points, I haven't really implemented NILs into this at all. So if there's any way that you guys can see that we can implement NILs in this, and if you come up with an idea, let me know. This is definitely going to be an ongoing living kind of game, RPG game kind of going on. So definitely I'm open to suggestions. Let's have them. Just a couple of miscellaneous rules in regards to the video game side of the athletic director mode. Again, no gameplay. If we happen to get fired, we are essentially not going to reward ourselves. We're going to start over. We're starting over because we're not the coach, we're the athletic director. We're starting over, but we are going to edit the roster before we start over to make it worse than the default team. So we're definitely not going to just start over with the original team and be like, okay, we get a completely brand new slate. We're going to make it a little bit harder on that new coach, quote unquote, that comes in. For football, if we do win 3 consecutive conference titles, then we may leave our conference, which is good because that'll just lead to better recruits and stuff like that. And then as far as the individual awards, because there's not any individual awards that I can account for with the dice rolls programs, like coach of the year, coach of the conference, 5 points. Major individual award will net 5 points. So like if someone wins the Heisman or like the Remington or something like that, that's 5 points. If someone wins player of the year in college hoops, that's 5 points. If someone is an All-American, that's 2 points. And if someone gets all conference, that's 1 point. That can change because obviously that will probably net quite a few points depending on the conference that we're in. So we'll just have to see as we go along in regards to how many points we award ourselves for the individual part of it, especially if our programs end up sucking and we get more individual awards than we do points from our programs. And so this is going to be the final slide before I end this episode and we go on to, our stream. This is for the fall season. So as far as the dice rolls, and if you have any questions about this, or like I said, if you think this is too convoluted and you would like it simplified a little bit, definitely let me know down in the comment section. It makes sense to me though. So for cross country men and women, Essentially, how we are going to simulate their season. There are meets throughout the season, but really the only thing that matters is your conference meet. And at your conference meet, at least in the WAC, which is where New Mexico State is, the top 3 teams in the conference in cross country at the conference meet will move on to a regional. So for that conference meet, we are simulating it by rolling a 13-side die, and obviously some of these dice numbers that I have are not going to make sense, but there is a website that we can do a weird sided amount of die. So we need to roll either a 1 through 3 on a 13-side die. If we roll, let's say a 2, for example, that means we place second place in that conference meet, and we would move on to the regional. Now, moving on to the regional, obviously it's going to be a little bit tougher because all the top teams from all the conferences are going to be at that meet. So at that regional, same thing. However, we need to roll 1 through 3 out of a 29-sided die. If we roll 1 through 3, then we move on to the nationals. Now, there is still kind of an at-large bid that you can get, but that would mean that you were like one of the top teams in the country. And there's a not very high probability of that if you didn't win your conference meet and if you didn't win your regional meet. So there is still a chance that if you don't win your regional meet, you can still get to the nationals. And that's if you roll a 1. You have to roll a 1 from a 30-sided die. And if you get that 1, then you get an at-large bid to the nationals. And at nationals, we simply roll a 24-sided die, and whichever result you get from that 24-sided die, that is your place at the nationals. And then if we do place top 10 at nationals, we will roll a 30-sided die to see the best finisher on your team. So let's say, for example, we place 8th in the team competition. We'll then roll a 30-sided die, and if it hits number 1, that means that your best runner on the team won the entire meet and is the individual national champion. That would be subject to the 20-point award, essentially, for winning a national title, quote unquote. Now, how we are handling recruiting with the programs that do not have a video game to accompany them is very simple. Obviously, there's things you can account for as far as the coaching, how charismatic the coaches are and whatnot, but just because we don't have the means to kind of go into that, we're essentially just going to roll a 6-sided dice. That's all that the off season is going to be. We roll a 6-sided die. If you roll a 1, then we essentially remove a side from the dice for the conference and the regionals. So that means that the conference, you would need to roll a 1 out of 3 on a 12-sided die instead of a 13-sided die. So essentially what that does is it's improving your chances of advancing from the conference meet, and it's improving your chances of advancing from the regional meet. However, if we roll a 6 from that 6-sided die, we add a side. So essentially, if we roll a 1, we had a great offseason as far as recruiting. And if we roll a 6, that means a bunch of really good seniors left and we did not get any good recruits. And it's going to be tougher next year to advance out of our conference. That's cross country. Now, as far as soccer and volleyball, it's going to operate differently because there's actually, games and matches throughout the season. So the first dice roll is going to determine whether or not the team had a winning record. If we roll a 1 through 5 out of a 12-sided die, then the team had a winning record. Anything else, and they had a losing record. No 500 seasons. For the conference championships, if a 1 was rolled, then we are assuming that we were in first place in our conference. If a 1 was rolled, then we would need to roll a 1 through 5 on that 12-sided die, and then we win our conference. That means our conference tournament. If a 2 through 5 was rolled on the winning record roll, then we would need to roll a 1 through 3 on a 12-sided die. If we roll a 1 through 3, we win our conference tournament. If it's anything other than a 1 through 3, we did not win our conference tournament. However, if we rolled a 6 through 12 on our winning record roll, we would need to roll a 1 out, just a 1. We would need to roll a 1 from that 12-sided die. And that's essentially kind of like if we went 10 and 20 on the season, and then we just had a really killer conference tournament, that would not happen very often, but it does sometimes. But it's a very slim chance of that. But If we were to roll that 1 out of a 12-sided die, boom, that's a conference championship. Same thing applies as far as the at-large bids. If a 1 was rolled on the winning record roll, but we did not win our conference championship, then we would need to roll a 1 through 5 out of a 30-sided die. And if we do roll a 1 through 5 on that 30-sided die, then we advance to the national tournament. If we if we rolled a 2 through 5 on the winning record roll and we did not win the conference title, then we would need to roll just a 1. We have to roll a 1 out of that 30-sided die, and then we would have an at-large bid. Now, for the national tournament, once we get there, we get there. And it's kind of the same as the winning record. So at the national tournament, we just roll a 12-sided die, and if we roll a 1 through 5, we win that game, and it keeps on going. So if we get hot, then we can just boom, 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 boom. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, national champion. That's essentially the idea. And the same thing for the recruiting as cross country. If we roll a 1 from a 6-sided die, then we remove a side from the winning record and the conference dice rolls. I know that sounds very complicated, but I promise once I put it into action, I will try my best to explain it as best as possible. If you guys have any questions, if it's very confusing and you have questions, please do not hesitate to leave me a comment down below. If you're joining me for the first time, my name is azplyo21. I do a lot of MMA videos on this channel, specifically with a game called WMMA 5. And I consider that game to be basically an RPG kind of game as well, because you are assuming the role essentially of the athletic director of an MMA promotion. And that's kind of what I was looking to do here. Obviously, we're going to be playing some video games, minus the gameplay. We're going to be doing basically the recruiting and whatnot. But it's the dice roll thing that kind of has me a little bit interested, just to see what happens. Because like I said, there is a chance that we just get hot, on the dice, and we roll 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, boom, national champion. And then, if that were the case, then we would have, points adding up, and then we could eventually, once we get to 100 points, buy an extra die, so that way, exponentially the programs will just get better and better. Let me know if you guys have any interest in this whatsoever. I'm going to be doing this irregardless, but I'm just hoping that someone out there gets really geeked out about this like I do. I'm azplyo21. Appreciate you guys for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter. All the links are down below. And yeah, let's go New Mexico State. Appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you later.